played in the NBA for 10 years and for 9 teams. So he played with everybody from Bradley Beal to Chris Paul. He was coached by Doc Rivers, Ty Lue. So he's been around. Ryan Hollins is now joining us. He does some stuff for TNT as well. I'm going to get to Brooklyn and Westbrook in a second. I will start with a Warriors Lakers thought, and I'll set you up. My takeaway is there's a lot of blowouts in the NBA now, even in the playoffs, because of the three-point shot, where if you fall behind by 10 to 12 and you start shooting threes to get your way back into it and you're cold, these games become 24, 27-point games fast. The Lakers were terrible in the first half. LeBron played as poorly as he could. Dennis Schroeder was bad all night. Steph was amazing. And at the end of the night, the Lakers won. And Ryan, my takeaway was, man, when you can play poorly and win in the NBA playoffs, I would be encouraged this morning if I was a Laker fan. Your thoughts?
You got to be ecstatic if you're LeBron James, man, because ultimately they were rusty. You felt the national media, the energy behind Steph Curry, and it was a do or die game. LeBron James didn't know how he would look going in, and he pours out with a meager triple-double. But I tell you, from being in the locker room in those situations, when you know you didn't play well, when you relied on your defense, and you step away with a win, there's nothing like it. I remember playing in Memphis. I had the last bits of the grit and grind with Marc Gasol, who's on the Lakers now, and Zach Randolph and Conley and those boys, and we prided on ourselves on those type of performance. And it almost looks like, yes, the three ball is in, as you said, Colin, but ultimately, defense won last year's championship for LeBron James. This wasn't a team that was running and gunning and scoring in the 140s and 130s. This is a team that locked up and defended, and in a do-or-die game, it paid dividends.
You know, you look at Steph Curry, he is so magical. I do, if they win tonight, right, or if they win not tonight, but their next game, Lakers threw everything at him. Nothing worked. Is there a way? I mean, everybody always used to force LeBron, I think, to his right hand. They wanted to force him right. There were certain places Kobe didn't want to be and certain places Kobe did want to be. How do you defend? Is there a book on Steph Curry?
Well, the one thing we used to do with the Los Angeles Clippers before they became the real Steph Curry and the two-time, three-time champs, whatever they were, we would send him to his right hand. For right-handed players, and when they hit a step back, normally Steph Curry's magic going to his left hand, so we'd send him right. He went and played in the Olympics, comes back, and he becomes a two-time MVP because he could go to his right well, he could go to his left. The one thing that you have to do, any great player, and this is how we really define Steph as great, you got to have personnel to be able to play him. You've got to be quick enough and athletic enough where you have 5 guys who can switch that screen and roll with him and take him away. You got to have a Dellavedova type guy. If you guys don't forget what he did in the NBA Finals, that just harasses Steph, 94 feet and climbs into his jersey and is disciplined enough not to foul out in the process. But ultimately, you got to have personnel. You got to have personnel to guard LeBron. You had to have personnel to guard Shaquille O'Neal when he was dominant. You had to have personnel to guard Kobe Bryant. So no different with Steph Curry. It's the personnel to be able to do it, Colin.
Anthony Davis doesn't want to play the post. He wants to be a 4. That's okay. Not a lot of guys want to go 5 back to the basket and deal with all that body slamming. Andre Drummond, that's his game. He's good with it. Do you think it's a little bit of a dilemma in the Laker locker room that the Lakers are best often when Anthony Davis is a 5 and he doesn't want to play the 5?
No, it's an extreme concern because if you're going to go against a guy like Nikola Jokic, and the advantage would be Anthony Davis running Jokic up and down the floor. But if he's not interested in playing 5 and banging, you can't play him on the defensive end. Defensively, Anthony Davis doesn't want to be 5. So that's where a problem can occur. And one thing Vogel does that it kind of drives me crazy, and I know how important Anthony Davis is. When you run just drop 4, which means you post him up all night long, I don't think that's Anthony Davis's advantage. When I had to guard Anthony Davis, or when I watch him, he's a nightmare picking and popping, picking and rolling, playing off the elbows. When he's active, he is a different beast. Chime back to the NBA Finals last year when Anthony Davis got on the block and rebounded and was active. They couldn't do anything with him. Bam Adebayo, we know how great he is defensively, but between Dwight Howard and AD rebounding the basketball, active and their activity, there just wasn't enough. But the one thing Drummond's going to have to do, who's like a little brother to me, we had him on a podcast. He's got to kill you with activity. I don't think any of the Laker bigs are ones that you just want to drop on the block, because Draymond, we saw last night, was able to guard him straight up. Yeah. And Anthony Davis is a finesse. He's a touch big. He's not a grinder.
I want to talk Brooklyn Nets. So, listen, we know they have three of the best 4 or 5 offensive players in the game. Here's where I see the problems in the postseason. Number one is James Harden feels like I got to prove something in the postseason. Sometimes psychologically, now Kyrie's got a ring and Kevin Durant's got rings and James doesn't. So does James now get a little more ball-centric, wanting to prove I'm good here too, not just regular season? The second thing I worry about Brooklyn is they haven't faced a lot of stress, right? Like, what happens when you're down 2-1? And now people are ripping Kevin Durant. They're ripping Kyrie. And you get those voices in your head. You're hearing, okay, guy. Do you worry at all that they haven't faced that rough tunnel yet, and here it comes?
Here's the truth, Colin. The honest to God truth. If you're James Harden, when I played against him, you got to credit him. He's one of the smartest players I've ever played against. He's like the Money Mayweather of basketball. What I mean, he's a counter puncher. If you back up, he shoots a three. If you're too physical with him, he flops, he takes the foul. James Harden is absolutely dynamic. The problem isn't James Harden. The problem is the defenses that they're going to face, okay? I played for Doc Rivers. I know how a Spoelstra can be in the playoffs. I've seen him in the Eastern Conference Finals. What they're going to do is deny the heck out of Kevin Durant. They're going to deny Kyrie Irving, and then say, James Harden, give me 40, give me 50 in a playoff scenario. I am face guarding Kevin Durant. There's a no-leave rule. And if you're a team like a Milwaukee Bucks who has the personnel to guard him and can climb into him, and frustration sets in, Colin, let's remember last year, I'm a history major at UCLA. I'm a history major. I always like to look back. Kevin Durant was frustrated when playing with the Golden State Warriors because in that Houston series, he wanted to beat Kevin Durant and go off, and they were denying him and putting bodies on him, and that could be a problem. Last year, take a look at who else? The Los Angeles Clippers. What happened with the Clippers? They didn't have enough time together in practice, not enough chemistry. And when things got really tight in the playoffs, they didn't know what to go to. It just ended up being Kawhi playing one-on-one and Paul George struggling because he had to do too much one-on-one.
Yeah, no, these are good points. Finally, I'm not a huge Westbrook fan. He doesn't have a feel that I like, but I will say this. About 50% of his games in the playoffs look like the last one, where it's kind of out of control. And then he usually rebounds and plays better. Bradley Beal will also be healthier tonight. So I like Washington tonight. I think they're a limited team, kind of dependent on their backcourt. But you are a bigger Westbrook fan than I am. I tend to think he lacks a feel for the game that I think the great guards have. I don't deny his athleticism. That would be ridiculous to deny. He's absurd. But you're more of a Westbrook guy than me.
All right, Colin, I can't disagree with your thoughts, okay? What he did was historical, and we didn't take that away, but he hasn't shown up when needed. But I want to give you some food for thought.